Welcome back for another beginner sketchbook prompt tutorial. I hope you're enjoying this series. I am loving filming it. Today we're going to do the cross contour. It's sort of similar to the last exercise where we did the contour lines of the fruit and vegetables, but we're going to start with the gesture of the whole container, and then we're going to add parallel and perpendicular lines to show the surface shape. It's pretty fun and pretty easy, I want to say, like to adapt to this style of drawing, and yet I think it's really helpful when you're learning to see and when you're learning to translate the 3D world into 2D. I hope that you will gain a lot from this lesson, and please share your work with me. I would absolutely love to see it. Use the hashtag #DoddingtonSketchTeam, DODINGTON Sketch Team on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you post your stuff. Let's dive in. All right, I've got my beginner sketchbook prompt list over here. We're going to work on number 3, cross contour container, and I am using this Faber-Castell art set. It's got a 2B, 4B, and 6B graphite pencils and a sharpener, eraser, and a blending stump. The blending stump did not come with this set, but you don't need it, especially not for this exercise. So it occurred to me that you may not know about pencil softness and hardness and what that means. And so I thought I'd quickly just explain that to you. So basically, these graphite pencils come in a range of sort of hardness, and the pencils that we're used to using in school are HB and 2B. And this is what I'm using right now in my hand, 2B. And it's somewhat soft. Obviously, art pencils might blend more than like a regular 2B school pencil, but these work fairly well for drafting and just sketching in your sketchbook, notebook, whatever. They work really well for writing. And the lead is hard enough, you know, that kids can kind of press hard as they're learning to write with them and they don't break as often. When you go up, so when the number goes up into the B's, so 2B, 4B, and 6B, the lead gets softer and darker, and it becomes potentially easier to break, but it also allows you to get darker values, and it's like it can be really expressive, the line variation you can get with a softer lead. I mean, I can achieve it. You can see I'm like pressing down, up. These are some drills we should probably get more into if you're interested in. But you can see me controlling the weight there of the marks, and it's really, it's more expressive and sort of thought to be like creative and artistic leads when you get up into the higher Bs. It goes up to 8B, 9B. I don't think I've ever held anything softer than a 9B. Yes, there are 3Bs and 5Bs and things like that, but the differences between each one is fairly subtle. So a good set, like all you really need are a couple, and it's okay if they're spaced apart. So a 2B and a 6B, or a 2B and a 4B, it's fine. And then, so I'm gonna say softer, darker, more goes that way. And then as you go this direction, it's not like negative. In fact, it just goes 2H, 4H, 6H, etc. And the lead gets harder and it gets lighter. And these are great for drafting really lightly. The lead is much more gray, and it is sometimes, depending on, for new artists anyway, when they use a harder lead, sometimes it indents the page a bit, and so it's not fantastic if you're heavy-handed. But when you're quite light and you're using a lighter lead like that, the effect can be really great. So I don't really own a lot of the harder leads. But do you see how much like thinner this is? The point, you can kind of get a harder point, and it is a little harder to get that expressive variation. And you can see when I do shade hard with this, it's still quite gray versus shading hard with a 6B, much closer to black, right? So that's just a little outline on pencils. And so when I talk about getting a harder pencil out or using a softer pencil, you'll know what I mean. So today we're just going to start with our 2B. Sometimes when I'm teaching you in a recording like this, I might press a little harder than I need, and I might use a darker pencil than I need just because I want you to be able to see it. So don't think that you always need to draw as heavily or as dark as I do. I'm doing that so that you can see. So to start with this container, we're going to just get a gesture of the whole thing and get the shape of it correct first. So I'm using like a milk jug thing. Notice I don't just get it perfect at once, and I don't go around like this trying to get the perfect line. I move my whole arm to try to get a good ellipse first. Yeah, a word about containers. So for this, you can do a vase, you can do cups, you can do, but I think like an interesting container with something other than just a cup would be really good. So maybe look for a mug, something with handles. I'm going to use a milk jug type decor item, but a vase would be good too. Anytime that I am drawing a vase or a bottle or something like that, I draw a plumb line, and that is a line going straight through the center all the way down. Not using a ruler or anything, but trying to get a general straight line. And what this does is it helps our brain catch symmetry. So if we're making a wonky bottle, I often see my students, we draw a lot of like wine and beer bottles in class. It's just what we have in our still life closet. And I'll see a lot of this, like one side of the bottle looks like this, and the other one looks like this. And you can kind of see it's wonky, but often when they're worried about so many other things in the drawing, they just don't catch this. And as soon as we start doing plumb lines down the center, it's a lot easier for our eye to catch where it's not symmetrical and kind of adjust. So that said, we've got our line. This is basically just a cylinder. And yeah, the top ellipse is a little wider than the sides, just because that's what it looks like. Then this comes down to here. While the back here, the next layer over, it's not going to come down from right here. It's actually a little bit behind. So this is, I want this top to look like it's coming from the center, not on the edge. So this is a bit of a, I might have to adjust this. It's a bit of an awkward, kind of like a bulging top here. And then all I have to do is make this similar to this line. I'm going to go straight down from here. Using my whole arm, still looking a bit wonky. Straight lines are hard. You might have to tilt your page or move your body or arm around to get longer straight lines, if that's a challenge. I'm going to scoot this up a bit so you can see the bottom. There we go. And here's the bottom. So they're all like smiley face lines, right? They're curving up. This isn't flat. I know you might think it's flat because our brain does weird things. When we try to draw the bottom of anything round, it tries to flatten this because it knows that it is sitting on a flat surface, and our brain tries to flatten the bottom when really we have to show that it's round. So got my general shape. Let's add the little handle. I'm just going to get the gesture first. So it's like a cylinder here. It's not curved, it's sitting on here straight. And one part of the handle is coming out right here. And it's going to go straight down here. The other one is coming out right here. Goes out a little ways before it turns. More than this, it's like this cylinder has slid, this handle, wooden handle is slid to this side. So there's more showing on this side. Little details like that matter. And I'm just doing some parallel lines. And another thing to note is that this from here to here is wider than from here to here. So I know it's not parallel. These are coming in towards this handle. And I'm going to make this a bit bulgy here and then indent in. When something's round like this, if this isn't straight, this is a slight curve. And so I'm going to do the same thing here. Think of it like a cylinder. It's a little bit smaller here and it's going to bulge out just a little in the center to here. So bulging out a little and then back in to there. And went a little far. And then there's another little bulge. And you can see this side of the handle and you can't see this side. And that's how I know to curve things like this, because I'm matching the side you can see. So if we're just doing a cylinder, there's one ellipses, here's another, and then they're connected. But we can't see both ends, right? So in this case, we're seeing this end. So we take this curve and we repeat it over here. And there you've got yourself a cylinder. So we've just made a bit of a fancier cylinder here. And it's not perfect yet. It looks a bit too big on this side versus that side. So we could tweak it a little. The contour, we're not even doing the cross contour lines yet. I'm literally just trying to get the main shape and gesture down, because if we get that wrong, it doesn't matter how good our lines are, it's gonna look really weird. One other thing I'm noticing is I think I want this to be a little more curved. Okay, so now on to contour lines like we did last time. Contour lines follow the form. They follow the form. And we kind of left this a bit wild up here. There's the lip. And then the inside goes straight down. So if you want, you can erase your plumb line now that you have a decent shape. I don't mind leaving lines all over my drawing. I think it just makes it interesting. This is a bit wonky up here. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Is it going to bother me? Yes, it's probably going to bother me. So the reason things are a bit wonky for me, I didn't realize this leaf was in your view, I apologize, is because I'm drawing like an arm's width away. And I'm not looking like straight down on the drawing. I have a big light, ring light in the way, etc. The thing that's holding my camera. So it's a little hard for me to see this straight on, hence the wonkiness. Just gotta, it's gonna bug me if I do this totally crooked, so. How does that look? That is much better. Huge difference in my opinion. All right, we have the basic gesture and now we get to add the contour lines. So anywhere that the object is rounded or curved, we want those lines to go with, the form of the object. Let's start with the easiest thing, up and down. So we know that the container is straight up and down. And so let's begin. This pencil's not staying very sharp. And I really do want kind of crisp lines for this. So stick with your harder lead at this point, and we can get expressive in a bit, but right now we want kind of crisp lines. So I'm going to quickly just define the lip of this top. This is when the little click eraser comes in. You don't need one of these, but we were using it for the charcoal drawings, and I think you will find plenty of uses for it. So if you want to, I think it's a fun investment. As you can see, I was just able to erase the tiny little inside of this lip. And that's a great reason to have that eraser. You can reach some tiny spots. And so I defined that lip because it's curved, right? It's rounded. And so we're going to want our lines to curve over it. And the trickiest part with contour lines is knowing when to, like what direction to make the curves. So because this is the center, my line is kind of straight. And then as these go off to the left, they're curving that direction like this. And as it goes off to the right, it's curving that direction. And I'm trying my best to sort of equally space them. Super not necessary, but it will look better. And when the curve hits the bottom, that's where I'm going to try to draw straight down from. So the curve hits the bottom here, and then I'm continuing the line down, almost as if this is a striped container, right? I don't want the line to be over here. I want this to look like it's indenting. I realize I'm talking about like a very small part, so let me just zoom in to show you. I want the bottom of this lip to look like it's indented. And so the way to do that is to not, I'll do it large over here. Let's pretend this is the lip. So we have the curved line showing that this is round, a round lip. If we didn't do it curved, or if we didn't curve it enough, it's going to look more flat. But if we curve it nicely, it's going to look round, and we don't want the line to come down from here. We want it to come down from here, this part. So let me erase my bad ones. So curved lines going around like that and coming down from here, not from over here or anything. Does that make sense? I'm trying to break down what's become intuitive to me, because a lot of students don't really catch those small things, like, hey, if this was striped fabric or something, if this was painted in stripes, this is what it would look like. So I've run into a little bit of a hiccup when I got to the center. This line is very close to this one. So I'm just gonna buy myself some more space here. Looks a bit awkward. So the spacing isn't perfect right in here, but you'll see that the more we add, the more successful it looks, and you won't notice those little inconsistencies. So it's not absolutely imperative that it be perfect. Okay, but the spacing is as parallel as I could make it. So what I have noticed looking at my reference is that we don't see the lip on this side. The reason I didn't notice that right away is because I actually have plants in mine right now. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this lower line. Do you see how it's not really totally erasing? That's because this 2B is pretty dark. And so it's kind of like stained the paper a little bit. What we're going to do is keep curving these until we can get in enough that the curved line goes straight down. So think of like a waterfall. And that's what's going to happen back here. Is it comes over the lip and straight down. There's not like an indentation like this. On the other side, it's going to come straight over. And it's still curved at the top because it is going, that's what the shape does. So these aren't perfect, but I think it's going to still work, and it's still going to translate pretty well. See that? Erasing a bit more of that plumb line. So these are contour lines, the same as we applied to the fruit assignment. This is your reminder to base all of your lines on your observation. So this line helped me to draw the initial shape, how the cylinder hit here and then it bulged out. But when I'm looking at the shape, that is not a hard dent. It's not like something was fixated on. It is a smooth transition. So what I'm going to do is bring the lines down to here, and then they're going to splay out. It might take a bit of practice to get this right. I'm going to keep it really light because I'm not yet sure what the lines are going to do, but they're going to come out here and then curve down. So back here I kind of I'm remembering like the orange shape or the beach ball shape, how it's going to be narrower up here and the lines are going to kind of spread out. As best as I can. They're going to drop over the side of this and come straight down. If I'm being hyper particular, which I'm not going to for this particular exercise, but there's a seam here on the container. So I could have the line drop over the edge, hit the seam, and then jog it in a tiny bit to kind of show that there is a seam there. So I'm moving my whole body to get these lines how I want them. The idea is that they're just rather straight. The lines aren't super duper matching up top, but that's okay. Whoa. So drawing lines straight up and down, quite the challenge. The easiest way around that, if I weren't recording this for you, I would just swivel my whole page. It is definitely a challenge to draw these straight lines straight up and down because I'm moving my whole body. They're kind of like, ooh, that's okay. I'd rather you see the whole process than it be perfect, than the end result be perfect. That makes sense. That bulge right in there is maybe a little too aggressive. There we go. I'm laughing at how non-straight these are. They keep wanting to bulge to the left. This is what I mean. This is me giving in. Much easier when you just turn your page. All right, we have some solid contour lines. You can see my page is getting a bit mucky just from my hand. And if that happens to you, you can always take an eraser back in, clean it up a little. So next thing I want to do is start adding the cross contour lines. We will get to this part here. I'm just not worried about it yet. Let's get the main shape down. So cross contour lines are going to have to be perpendicular to the lines we already have here. We could leave the drawing like this. That's totally fine. You'll notice the cross contour lines are pretty interesting and make you think about it in another way. One easy cross contour line is the one that I noted. It's just the lip in this actual object. So you might have an object that actually has cross contour lines, which is super helpful. Some things that have that are like checkered things or anything with a weave. Okay, let's start at the top. I'm going to tilt my page and I'm going to follow this line. So it is around, we're on a cylinder here, so we need to make sure that these lines are curved. if we mess these lines up, it's a little bit harder to correct, obviously, because we have lines already down. So go lightly. They're kind of forgiving when you go lightly enough, you can tweak them. Voila, we're just gonna keep going around. So I'm thinking about the actual shape of this. This is in the center of the top, and there exists a behind, right? Whatever's on this side. So my next line that comes around like this, I want it to disappear around the back to kind of show it continues behind. When something is bigger, we can often choose to make our lines more spaced apart, and it'll kind of show more gradual shifts. And the tighter the lines, the closer together the lines, sometimes that means that there's a fold or a crease or something like that. This will become more apparent on a different shape. It's not as apparent on this particular object. So it's not super duper important that all of your lines are perfectly parallel. For example, the lines up here are spaced out, and they don't necessarily have to be as spaced out. Like, what am I trying to say? After the turn in the side, I have like a little tiny space, because this is where I wanted to show that there was that little lip, or yeah, like a little seam. Let's keep going all the way down the whole object. If it helps you not to move this way, it might help you be a little cleaner. You can go from left to right if you're right-handed, and you can also drop a page down just to protect what you've already got there, because as you can see, my side of my hand is getting a bit messy. You saw what I did there. I started hatching. We don't want to actually do that. We want to just kind of be a bit more confident in our lines. Again, I'm not looking at this from directly above, so I have to take a couple extra moments to make sure I'm kind of not making it too wonky. These are the challenges of recording for you. Let's see how we're doing. That's not horrible. It's not perfect. You will see that as we get through all the prompts. My drawing isn't perfect. That takes too much time to draw that way, so I'm just going to erase, correct the line, and then go back over these ones. All right. At this point, you may want to alter the line quality. So you might want to have some lines be a bit thicker than others. Something that looks quite aesthetically nice is when the outside of the edge has a thicker, darker line, just stylistically. Gives it a bit more emphasis on the overall shape. You can see how the effect of that right away. I'm pressing a little bit harder, but not tremendously. It's mostly the change to my 4B that is making the difference here. I kind of gently curve the edges a little whenever I'm doing something cylindrical. So that gives it a bit of definition, and I want to address the handle now. Back to my 2B, and I've sharpened it. We are going to do those little curved lines kind of like up here on this whole handle bar. So I could space them way out, but I think that it's more effective to have the lines closer together, like tighter together on a smaller thing. Kind of got awkward around here. I'm okay with that though. We got to do the same down here. Do we want, I think we want the curves to be the same as this one. I started making them go that way, and it might look a bit weird. Who cares really if you do it, it's fine. But it might look strange to have them curving one direction on one side and the other direction on the other. I don't really know. If you try that out, let me know how it looks. Let me know if it looks crazy. I'm rushing this a little, and I shouldn't. I should just chill out. I'm just worried it might be a little boring for you. Okay. Let's do the main bulge over there, smaller one. I'm going to keep all of my lines curving in the same direction for this handle. Because I'm not looking straight at it, I don't need to like have it curve one direction and then switch. We're looking at the side of it, so it's okay for it all to curve the same way. Now I have 3 indents in the center of this handle. I'm trying to decide how I'd like to deal with that. I think I will make the indents darker. And I'm also going to do a tiny little indent at the top to kind of show it's indented a little. Do the same down here, indent, up, indent. What do I mean by that? Let's pretend this is it again. I'm coming along the top, and then I'm kind of going in along the top and indent in, top, indent in. And so it'll look like these are carved into it, which they are. Same on the bottom. Can't really see the indents too much because of the just general roughness of the sketch, but you get the idea, I think. Now for cross contour, the handles up here are really thin, so it might be weird to try to get a line going the other direction on that. Not impossible, but we don't need to do more than one, that's for sure. And you might stylistically choose to leave some, like you don't have to do this line here. You could have some parts that are just contour line and other parts that are cross contour line. My handle looks wonky, but I'm just going to accept it. I think the cross contour lines will help. They're going to come over this bulge and then across, and they're gonna kind of whoop, puff out. Have them go straight here and then puff in and curve over the bulge. This one is in the center. We've got a bulging thing, so I'm going to just have it go straight across. And these ones are curving in the other direction. That looks a lot better to me once I added the cross contour lines. But you really do have to think about the shape of the thing. This center here is doing this. It's got a bulge over here and it's got a bulge over here. So your lines, if you just keep them curving that way, you're going to run into trouble down here, right? So at some point you need to alter the direction, and that means having one go a little bit straighter, or a piece in the center that's kind of like the orange slice we talked about, or the beach ball. And you have to do that when you're looking at something in the center. So we're looking at this cylinder straight on, so the lines this way have to do this. I explained we don't have to do it when we're doing the vertical lines because we're looking at the side of the cylinder. I hope that makes sense. So it depends on it totally depends on where you're looking at your object. This main bottle thing, we're looking at directly on, straightforward. So that's why our lines get to the center and change direction. What else can we do to just sort of enhance this? The last couple things we can do. I'm gonna take a 4B and darken the handles. The handle edges look a little dark right now because I did go over them with the 2B pretty dark, but they look even better when you go over them with the 4B. So there's our cross contour drawing of the weird milk jug vase thing. And I'm noticing there's a lip on the bottom that I kind of omitted unintentionally. And all I'm going to do for that is go out a little bit and create a tiny little lip and have it go behind the corner so it looks like it's coming around. Now, one cool thing you can do with cross contour or contour lines is you can also add contour to the, like you could add shadow, you can change the width of some of these lines to show light. So all these lines are the same width right now because that reflects the fact that this surface is very similar. The whole surface of this jug, the whole surface of the jug is smooth and flat, and so I kept things equal distance and equal pressure. But in my actual reference, this side is in shadow. So I could grab my 4B maybe. I could come down with some of these and make them a bit thicker or darker, and it'll change the emphasis on this part, this side, kind of drawing attention to it. And let's do the same with our horizontal ones. Let's incrementally get darker here, and then I'm slowly pressing more. There we go. See what I'm doing? I'm kind of lightening it up right at the edge there, and that's kind of to suggest that there's reflective light or light that's coming around from this side. So I'm not making it dark all the way to the edge. I'm kind of making it darkest right here, and then it's starting to lighten up. It's important with cylinders that we have the same lighting all the way down the side, because it's a cylinder and that part of the cylinder is getting the same amount of light. So we can continue up. I'm not going to do any here at the top because there's more light hitting the top. I could do a little bit maybe on the side here. Yeah, I like that. So I'm just doing a little patch of darker line, but you might want to make yours a little more gradual like this. I think it's really successful when you can slowly change the pressure. So if you need to do a couple of those drills to get used to what it's like to make a thick and thin line, you can go ahead and do that. We didn't do any cross contour line on the inside. I think we should, because it's going to help it a lot. All right, moving back to my 2B. And I'm gonna tilt this a little so I can have a little more ease with these curved lines. I'm not going to curve them the same as these ones here, because you'll get up to here and then what? It's going to look really strange. I have to go with the curve of this side. So around like that. And you see how suddenly that just helps so much with the depth in there. And if you want to apply a bit of what we just talked about in terms of line weight, we could make the lines as a little thicker as they go down into the jug, and it's going to look like it's shadow. It'll help with depth, it'll help with looking like it's a little darker there because it's going into shadow. So it's so strange to say this, but you can imply shadow with line without actually shading anything. Just line thickness and weight. See how it's getting darker in there? And so it kind of looks like, I didn't do that as gradually as I would have liked, but you get the idea. My job is to give you the knowledge, and then you can put it to practice and see how you like drawing this way. This felt very sort of systematic and maybe a bit like slow and deliberate, but I'm going to do another subject, something else, maybe not man-made, to show you the way contour lines can get really expressive. When you're doing something man-made, it's going to be a lot more systematic, but my students seem to have the most trouble with curved things, and like at what point do I take the lines that are curving this way and flip them. So I thought that would be one of the most informative pieces of subject matter for you. But I think that this type of drawing is even more fun when we're doing organic things. And by organic, I mean like not man-made and geometric, but rather like a shoe or a piece of clothing or something like that. It could be really, really fun. But this is all I've got for you right now. I hope you learned a ton today. And as usual, if you want another lesson on cross contour lines, hop over to my Patreon, where I'm going to make another little tutorial for you over there and give you some more instruction in case you just want to hang out with me some more, or you want to see the things we learned today applied to different subject matter. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for joining me for this tutorial. If you really enjoyed what you saw, I have more tutorials. So for every drawing prompt, we're going to do some more in-depth tutorials on my Patreon, and just just more examples. So if you liked what you saw, but you're somebody who wants company while they work and you want to be sketching it along with me and getting that input, then hop over there, join me there. It is Jessie Doddington Art Studio, I believe. And also, when you're over there, you can give me input on what you're struggling with. You can get feedback from me. You can contribute to what we study next. So if there's something that you've really been struggling with or something you really want to learn, or you just want to learn before other things, over there on my Patreon, you can tell me what you want to see more of. I will make tutorials for you. And I'm just starting this out. So if you're my first person, don't feel like you're not going to get value. Oh my goodness, you're going to get the most value if you're the first 5-10 people in my Patreon. You are my team. Like, you are my closest studio friends, and we're going to make some great things happen over there. So don't freak out that you might be my first Patreon. I just started this. So if you're my first patron, welcome. I'm so excited. This is loose. What do you have to say? We hope you're enjoying this drawing tutorial series, and do let me know if you want to try drawing this little munchkin. This is loose. She would love to be the subject of a drawing class, I think. What do you have to say for yourself? That's what I thought. Bye.